I would think that people will think in terms of David Bowie the same way you think in terms of the great masters in other forms of music. In pop music, they don't seem to treat us the same way. They don't treat us like you treat, Bartok or Prokofiev or Brahms or Mozart. I think that Bowie will be thought of the same way we think in terms of, Miles and Coltrane, just in this particular field, in pop music. He was a real innovator. I mean, he didn't just do music, he did ideas, which were incredible. And I think that the world will see that. Unfortunately, what happens is that with most art, most composers become more famous after they're gone because you realize how brilliant it was and you wish that it was still around. The first time I met Bowie, he was not theatrical. He looked like a businessman, and this was the beginning of the 80s, so this was like the whole club kid scene, and we were all freaky, and hip-hop b-boys were wearing foxtails and the whole bit, and David was the guy sitting at this after-hours club wearing a suit, drinking a glass of orange juice. It was like he was the guy who didn't fit. So I noticed him right away, and I started chatting with him, and instantly the conversation went from our closest friends to heavy jazz musicians and composers. And we wound up talking to each other all night. And within a few days, he had made up his mind that he was interested in seeing me again. And within a matter of weeks, we were in Switzerland doing the first demos. So let's put this really in context. At the time that I did Let's Dance, I was not cool to people because this was after Disco Sucks, the only #1 record I had after that. Now, remember, I'm not saying this in an egotistical way, but my very first record was big, and every single record I had was big up until Disco Sucks. In 1979, I had 2 #1 pop records on the Billboard charts. And then after Diana Ross in 1980, I had no hits until David. So it was weird for me to have every record be a hit and then no records hit. So David basically he saved a drowning man. It was like, after we got together. And here's really what was weird, is that he didn't even have a record deal. So he was dropped, I was dropped, and we had to figure out what we were going to do together. So for him to put that kind of trust in me at a time where most people wouldn't even answer my phone calls made me feel like $1 million, and to have someone of his stature, because I knew that even just working with him, even if we had a flop, it would just raise the way that people thought of me in the business.